This segment is about radon in the home, and we're going to start off in the living room. The dining room. And you can see that I've got a Safety Siren Pro 3 series radon detector that's on the first floor, and it's reading 1.2, and we know that the action level for radon is 4 picocuries per liter. So that's not a big surprise because the first floor in the middle of summer is open to, that we have windows open. So that's pretty much a background level, as it turns out. There's a bunch of different ways to measure radon. And the thing about radon is that it changes a lot with climate. It changes with seasons, and it reacts quite a bit to pressure differences. And so when you take one measurement, you really need to average measurements over an entire year to get a sense of what the average exposure is to radon. And we also know that when you air tighten a building, it can keep radon gas out and make it go down. It can actually trap radon gas in and make the reading go up. So note, this is the baseline reading for the first floor. And if this were the lowest habitable floor, then this is where you would measure, because that's what you're supposed to do when you measure radon. So we're going to now walk down into the basement and check what the radon meter is reading there. So I have 2 radon meters. They're both electronic. They take a 3-day running average for a short time measurement, and then they take a you can do a long-term measurement, which is it just keeps averaging. So it stores all the scores and it averages over whatever time period you have for. So the short term is 3-day running, so it drops the oldest reading and picks up the new one to average in. And the long term is just, as long as you're running it, it's averaging every measurement it's taken. So you can see in the basement we're running just at 4 picocuries per liter in the summer. Now, I've been studying radon in my house for over 15 years, and I can tell you that in the winter, the basement reading without any assistance or interference is quite a bit higher. It's probably around 8 picocuries per liter. So when we had the radon tech guy in here to work with us, generally the way that is most common is to depressurize underneath the basement slab and put a fan that exhausts that out the top of the building. When our radon tech guy came, he said, look, I'm really concerned about doing subslab depressurization because you've got all these different slabs in your basement, and you've also got this crawl space that you now are connecting to the basement. While the crawl space is not a habitable area, it because it's on a different level, you could be getting contribution of radon from the crawl space. So for that reason, to control radon in our house, he suggested a heat recovery ventilator, which is this unit here, right? And it has pipes that go from inside to out and distribute within this space. So this heat recovery ventilator, which is a mechanical ventilation system, is only for the basement. And its job is to dilute the concentration of radon by bringing outside air in and inside air out. So we keep that running. It has 3 speeds, 100 CFM, 150 CFM, and 200 CFM, that's cubic feet per minute. And essentially I change the speed based on the conditions. So to get even the basement below 4 picocuries per liter in the winter, I have to run it on the highest speed in the winter. So we're going to come back to the heat recovery ventilator in a second in terms of measuring pressure. But radon measurements short term, and for some real estate sales, they're only a 3-day average, one 3-day average. You could do that test in the middle of winter and get a reading that is significantly higher than if you came back and tested 3 days in the summer. You can see that our basement is completely closed up. All the windows are closed. So why is it at 4 curies per liter rather than 8? Well, in large part because one of the main driving forces in a lot of homes in cold climates for higher radon is the stack effect, where air is being sucked in down low and pumped out up here, right? We have low pressure in the bottom part of the house and high pressure in the upper part of the house. So without that driving force, there is radon leaking into my basement, but it's not under any real pressure. It's not being sucked in as strongly in the summer as it is during the winter. So radon's a complicated topic, and you learned some from the PowerPoint, and you definitely should look at other resources, particularly on Green Building Advisor, about exactly how to manage radon. And it's a colorless, odorless, tasteless gas that contributes to lung disease. The only way to determine what the level is to measure it. These Series 3 radon detectors, they have a service life. And so I have 2 or 3 times now tested these electronic radon meters against an alpha tracking test, doing a 3-month test, which is among the most accurate you can get. And they have been tracking pretty well. And since I have 2, I can run 2 of them in the same place to check to see if they're still doing pretty well. I have one that's about 4 years old, and the other one's probably about 10 years old. I'm probably pushing it with the 10-year one. I have to keep good track on that one, because that, talking to radon folks, they say that's about the service life of a Series 3. But as long as I can check it against other testers, I feel like I can keep using it. And with that, I'm going to leave you with a parting shot of the HRV, because we're going to come back to how it works and what it can tell us about measuring pressures inside the building.